Chapter 54, Discomfort. In the summoning chamber there was the swordsman god and the goddess of war. By the doors of the chamber stood two of the martial arts gods that guarded the temple. But, just like me, their minds froze at the sight of such an unexpected situation. Everything had happened so suddenly, that I was perplexed. I closed my eyes instinctively when the werewolf monster tried to attack me. I heard a dull sound while my field of vision was pitch dark. At the same time, I felt a violent shock and I fell on the floor. But, it was strange. I felt the impact on my shoulders instead of my neck. When I opened my eyes, I noticed that Seiya covered me like a shield. That's right, Seiya was always the one who reacted the quickest according to each situation. He protected me so fast that the evil fangs didn't get close to my neck. However, Seiya didn't move an inch while he leaned against me. It was as if he passed out. Don't tell me that Seiya received the fang's attack in my place? I didn't see any bleeding at first glance. I tried to confirm if he was truly safe from external injuries. However, a cold voice echoed above my head. Is that the summoned hero for Exfolia? The werewolf's eyes looked at us suspiciously. Soon, the werewolf emanated a strong black aura from his sharp claws as he lifted his arms. At first, I was his aim, but at this precise moment, a new target replaced me. My instinct told me something alarming about this menacing power. I had the same exact feeling as when the warlord emperor aimed at me with his god eater. This was also identical to the aura created inside the Devil's Castle in Geabrande. I couldn't forget this awful feeling, the chain destruction. Die. With that cold voice, the werewolf charged directly at Seiya with his deadly claws. Don't. This time, however, I made a resolution as I put myself in front of Seiya to protect him. Celsius, who saw us being attacked by the werewolf, got frightened. Screams. I could hear his voice engulfed in fear. I was prepared to die eternally because my soul was about to be destroyed completely, and yet, on that moment, a piercing sound from a metal clash reverberated on my earlobes. The claws of the werewolf didn't reach me nor Seiya. When I looked up, I saw that Adenella stood in front of us earnestly. She protected us from the claws of the werewolf by using her sword as a shield. Enemy. The werewolf distanced himself when he noticed her defensive pose. He licked his own claws with his tongue. Then so, you are a goddess too. That means you're my enemy as well. On that moment, the claws of the werewolf extended in size. His claws became the size of big daggers. He aimed those pointy weapons to Adenella, who stood in front of Seiya and I, /disorder. On the other hand, Adenella focused on defeating that monster. Disappear, she said. I could hear a sound coming from her blade, the true consecutive gunshot sword. Adenella pointed the tip of her sword in the werewolf's direction. I shouted to Adenella, Lady Adenella, watch out. That monster's claws were activated with a chain destruction. A mortal wound would destroy your soul forever. Celsius responded instead of Adenella. In other words, we'll die for real if we get a mortal injury? That can't be true, right? Because gods can't die permanently, you know? That's why I tried to explain. Gods will really die if they are killed by that power. What? You're joking, right? I don't want to die yet. In contrast to the seemingly overwhelmed swordsman god, Adenella, the goddess of war, laughed insanely, laughs weirdly. A fight that puts my life on the line. I won't find anything more interesting than this. She acted without hesitating, just like a carnivore ready to attack its prey. She jumped like a predator towards her enemy immediately, while holding the consecutive gunshot sword in motion. She held her sword in one hand, and attacked repeatedly at a tremendous speed that created an illusionary image of several swords. Her fierce attack reminded me of the one that Seiya used with his own consecutive gunshot sword. However, I couldn't believe it. The werewolf was defending himself from her sword attacks by using his claws. Soon, his claws became deformed on both hands. This intense battle reminded me of attacks between Seiya and the warlord emperor back in Geabrande. Likewise, their battle also scattered sparks everywhere. And then, a dull sound was heard as if the meat was ripped apart. Before I realized it, Adenella fell behind and held her stomach with her hand. Fresh blood was dripping from between her fingers. Lady Adenella? Impossible. My consecutive gunshot sword, as the goddess of war, was defeated? What the hell is that monster? Adenella was looking at the werewolf with an astonishing expression. She told us then, don't worry, it's just a scratch. On the other hand, it looked like Adenella injured the werewolf as well. There was a little black blood dripping from a cut on his cheek. However, it was obvious that Adanella was the one who got injured the most. It was unbearable for me to watch this hopeless situation. Therefore, I ran in Celsius' direction. Say, Celsius. Lady Valkyrie. Go get Lady Valkyrie. Yeah. Understood. When Celsius tried to leave hurriedly. It's not necessary. Adanella mumbled with a fierce voice. This is different from when I battled the god of death. Physical attacks are effective against this monster. There's nothing to worry about. Abruptly, Adanella opened her mouth widely and raised her voice. Oh, order. I heard a strange sound. Adanella's right arm made a weird sound and, at the same time, it twisted dramatically. Her arm was mutilated. Whoa. Her arm. What happened? That's scary and creepy. It's way too creepy. Celsius hid behind me in fear. I distracted myself with Celsius. When I looked at Adanella again, I noticed that her arm was no longer an arm. Adanella's arm transformed into a shining silver blade. Adanella raised both corners of her mouth in an amusing way. Laughs weirdly. Divine sword. Gliding eagle. I swallowed up my own saliva. She changed her arm into a sword? Adanella positioned in a cat stance. While swinging the arm that became a sword, she jumped to attack the defenseless werewolf. Then, she screamed extreme consecutive gunshot sword. A huge illusionary storm ran towards the werewolf in maximum speed. The slashing was done at an insane precipitation. The werewolf's expression was greatly distorted. Usually, the consecutive gunshot sword was a high-speed technique that was made by countless slashes from down below, above, backwards, forward, with a mix of raveling, stabbing, and so on. However, the speed increased dramatically with the newly consecutive gunshot sword. Yet, this sword technique specialized only in stabbing. But, her right arm, the divine sword gliding eagle, was narrow with a sharp edge. The silver blade seemed suitable for the countless stabbing movements of the consecutive gunshot sword. It was impossible for the werewolf to prevent the massive stabbing strikes. He used his claws as a shield, but the power of that blade was too strong. He couldn't dodge the attacks. Lots of scars and deep wounds were inflicted severely on his body from the continued stabbing. The werewolf moved sideways in a hurry to avoid being hit. But, just as he fled away, the gliding eagle became a whip-like object. On that precise moment, the right arm of the werewolf was disconnected from his body. Ah! The werewolf screamed in pain. Black blood was dripping like crazy from his severed arm. The infinite stabbing has enough power to kill my enemies easily. That's the divine sword. Gliding eagle, amazing. This was Adanella's true power. The situation had reversed in our favor. The werewolf, who just lost his right arm, managed to sneak behind Adanella and got away. With a sticking tongue, the werewolf ran extremely fast as he went straightway to the portal. He wanted to get away by returning from where he came from. That monster is running away. When Celsius yelled, the werewolf turned around and grinned. Well, fine anyways. I already left a mark, mark, he said. What does that mean? He is trying to escape. Adanella rushed towards the werewolf. She charged at a tremendous speed and changed her left arm simultaneously. With a harsh sound, her left arm transformed into an extensive Japanese sword longer than the gliding eagle. The divine sword. Recurrent swallow. Adanella looked like a demon. Laughs weirdly. Double consecutive gunshot sword. She transformed both of her arms into swords and jumped behind the escaping werewolf. The face of the werewolf got caught by the arms of the goddess of war, who came in flying in the air. Die. Wait, Lady Adanella. Maybe we can extract some information about exfoliar from that monster. But, my words were not heard at all. She made consecutive slashes with her left arm and several fast punctures with her right arm. Laughs insanely high. The werewolf was chopped and aggressively pierced. Tons of black blood covered the entire space of the summoning chamber. The double consecutive gunshot sword. Adanella's strength was not be underestimated. Her fierce combat style was truly terrifying when she ordered her arms to transform into two devilish divine swords. The blood from the demon was scattered everywhere. A tiny fraction of that black blood fell on Celsius' cheek, who stood quite far in the distance. Whoa. I can't take this anymore. I want to go back to my room and have a cup of warm chamomile tea. While Celsius screamed desperately, the brutal murder did not stop. It was too ruthless that I didn't think I would ever see such scenario inside the god's realm. In just a few seconds, the werewolf turned into a limbless mass of flesh. Laughs cruelly. Adanella was fully bathed in blood. Then, she looked around and stared at me. I was completely frightened. Moreover, she stared at Celsius too, who was in a state of absolute despair. She showed me a face that looked like she finally returned to normality. I looked behind her and I noticed that the body of werewolf demon had been violently slaughtered. You really killed it. I spoke with a disappointing tone. Both of her deformed swords returned to her original arms. She pointed with her fingers at my knees where Seiya was laying unconsciously. Seiya safe? Yes, I don't see any injury on his body, but I didn't any cuts on Seiya's body by the werewolf's claws. But, then why? I already left a mark. Don't tell me that the werewolf declared those words just as an act of anguish? It can't be. I shook a fainted Seiya desperately. Seiya, wake up. But, my anxiety was groundless. With a hand on his head, Seiya raised his upper body slowly. I'm glad. Are you okay? Yeah. I'm fine. But, I feel a little discomfort inside my head. I see. Then, don't overdo it. You can lay down for a while, okay? No. More importantly, what happened to that werewolf? About that, Lady Adanella took care of it. What did you say? Seiya turned his gaze to the werewolf, who became an unspeakable limbless mass of flesh and wrinkled his forehead. On the other hand, Adanella, whose insanity had just gone like the wind, was standing beside Seiya like a little girl who had broken a vase. Adanella knew Seiya's personality. The enemy was slaughtered mercilessly without obtaining crucial information about the upcoming world. She felt that Seiya would reprimand her. I'm sorry. He approached Adanella, who had just apologized to him. Then, he spoke to her with unexpected kind words. No, you did well. That had to be done in order to defeat it. Thanks. Seiya. Love you. I like you too much. Soon, Adanella's dark-circled eyes disappeared completely and transformed into the shining eyes of a girl deeply in love. Just when Adanella switched to her passionate maiden mode, I interrupted them because I found it too troublesome. Anyways, let's report this to the great goddess sister. It's unbelievable to know that the first enemy we encountered had the power of the chain destruction. I raised my voice. Next to me, Celsius nodded in silence. Seiya stared at Celsius and asked the following. Can I ask you to do that on my behalf? I have something else to do. I was sure that he would like to burn the remains of the werewolf with hell's fire. I thought that the ritual of cleaning up was beginning once again. However, Seiya grabbed my arm and pulled it. What? Don't tell me that he was angry with me? Yes, that must be it. The werewolf came out because I was the one who opened the portal. It was my fault that happened. This was bad. There will be a crack on the love I cherished and nurtured with so much effort. But, that was a needless worry. Seiya was not angry with me. However, he pulled my arm strongly and walked as if he was in a hurry. Come on, this way. Let's go to Exfolia. I was surprised by his sudden words. What about cleaning up? Besides, didn't you say you still had lots of training to do? It's enough. Wait, Seiya? Seiya dragged me down while he headed to the portal that led to Exfolia. Both Celsius and Adanella looked attentively at the hasty action of Seiya, but, if it was the cautious Seiya we're talking about, maybe, his level is above 50. So, there shouldn't be a problem, right? When we arrived at the portal, Seiya put his hands on the door and said, let's go now, Lady Goddess. Lady Goddess? Are you talking about me? We have to save the world soon. Precious lives will be lost if we wait too long. I felt a sense of strangeness when I heard the words that were incompatible with Seiya's cautious personality. I stared attentively at the hero that went through the portal hurriedly. Seiya? Are you sure it's really okay to go now? You are perfectly ready, right? Yeah. Of course. The hero didn't look at me. Instead, he uttered the following words as he looked ahead without hesitating. Gonna be okay.